Hello, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be going over 3 ACT math questions. For all these problems, I recommend pausing the video and trying all the problems yourself first before you see me solve them. Without wasting any time, let's get into it. Question 12 says, given that sine squared x equals 10 over 18, what is the value of cosine squared x? Okay, so for this problem, you need to know the identity sine squared x plus cosine squared x equals 1. And this identity is helpful because we already know what sine squared x is, right? It's 10 over 18, so we can just substitute that in. 10 over 18 plus cosine squared x equals 1. And now since we're solving for cosine squared x, we can just solve for that, right? By subtracting 10 over 18. Minus 10 over 18. Minus 10 over 18. So cosine squared x equals 1 minus 10 over 18. 1 is the same thing as 18 over 18. And you get 8 over 18. So cosine squared x is 8 over 18. On to the next question, question 23, which says, let s and t represent any integers such that negative st is less than 0 and negative s plus t equals 1. Which of the following statements about the value of s minus t over st must be true? So for this problem, what I would do is, instead of working with variables s and t, I would just pick numbers. So I would pick a number for s and pick a number for t that satisfies negative st being less than 0 and negative s plus t equaling to 1. So for s, let's pick 3, right? And if s is 3, then t has to be 4, right? Because if we want this to be satisfied, if I plug in 3 for s, I get negative 3 plus t equals 1, and then t equals 4, right? And then that actually also works here because 3 times 4 is 12, and you have to remember the negative sign, and negative 12 is less than 0. So these two numbers work. Let's plug in s equals 3 and t equals 4 into s minus t over st. So 3 minus 4 over 3 times 4, negative 1 over 12. Now let's look at the answer choices. Is negative 1 over 12 an odd integer? No. Negative 1 over 12 is a fraction, which is gonna be a decimal, right? A decimal is not an integer. It is less than 0. And negative 1 over 12 is not greater than 0. So the answer is C, right? So remember, for this question, just plug in two numbers for s and t that satisfy the two conditions, and that makes it easier to solve. On to the last question. Question 37. What is the equation of the line in the standard xy coordinate plane that intersects a parabola y equals x squared minus 4x minus 5 at x equals 0 and x equals 7? So what I would do first is I would figure out the points on the parabola by plugging in x equals 0 into this equation right here and x equals 7 into this equation. So if I plug in x equals 0, 0 squared minus 4 times 0 minus 5, I get y equals negative 5. So one of the points on the parabola is 0, negative. One of the points on the parabola is 0, negative 5. if I plug in 7, 7 squared minus 4 times 7 minus 5, this is 16. So the other point on the parabola is y equals, the other point on the parabola is 7 comma 16, right? And what this question is basically asking is, out of these answer choices, out of these lines, which of these lines has these 2 points, right? And to figure that out, we can just plug in 0 into all 4 of these and see which one gives us -5. And we can plug in 7 into all of these and see which one gives us 16. So let's test A first with 0. 1/3 times 0, that's 0. 0 minus -5 is 0 minus 5 is -5. So A works. Same thing with B. 11/7 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 5 is -5. B also works. C does not work because 11/7 times 0, that's 0. But 0 plus 5 is 5. And we're looking for -5. So C is out. And D, like A and B, also works. 3 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 5 is -5. And that matches a point on the parabola, right? Now let's test for 7 comma 16. If I plug in 7 into the first one, it's 1/3 times 7 minus 5. 7/3 minus 5, that is not 16. So A is out. Let's test B now. 11/7 times 7 minus 5, that is 6, right? Because 11/7 times 7, that's 11. 11 minus 5 is 6, so B is out as well, which means our answer is D, and we can just check that. 3 times 7 minus 5, that is 16, and that shows us that our answer is D because we have both the points 0, -5 and 7, 16 on the line y equals 3x minus 5. I hope my explanations made sense, and thank you for watching.